Hello, everyone. For the very first time, my name is Bot. I'm a graphic designer, and I sort of design logos for a living. And of course, today I'm going to be talking to everyone here about logos, right? Because we live in a world where we are constantly surrounded by logos every day in our lives. Logos are on the clothes we wear, they're on the devices we're using, they're even on this, and they're even on the food we eat sometimes. And these logos sort of can represent a lot of things. Of course, these logos can represent the company or organization that made the products we're using, right? But logos can even represent a belief or a religion as well. And they can even go as far beyond as to represent an emotion, a feeling. This is what I sort of accidentally sent to my wife when we were dating. I didn't, you know, she's my wife now, so I can't complain. So logos, by default of getting to represent all these wonderful things in our lives, logos kind of have a lot of power, you know? So let me sort of demonstrate this. So this is a normal white t-shirt. So this normal white t-shirt, you can probably get it for around $5, you know, in where we live. If I add this logo on it, now you have to pay more for that shirt, right? And if I take two of the same white t-shirts, and I put different logos on them, which shirt we choose to buy will be dictated by which logo the shirt has. And keep in mind that in theory, these two t-shirts are the same, probably made from the same factory by the same person even. So one can say that logos are one of the most significant, insignificant thing in the world. They're important, but at the same time, you know, not really. So I want to ask two questions. The first one is that what makes a good logo? What makes an objectively good logo, right? And the second one is, why does it matter? Why do we need to care about good logos, right? So let's answer the first question. What makes a good logo? So I personally very much subscribe to the Saji Haviv rule to make a good logo. And Saji Haviv is sort of one of the most influential graphic designers in the world currently. And he defined three main criteria of a good logo. The first one is appropriate. Not expressive, right? It shouldn't try to say a whole lot. Logos are identification, not communication. So let's put this into an interactive example that we all can join. Let's say that I wanted to start a bank. I'll name it Bot's Bank. Very creative, I know. It'll be sort of a bank of business, and disclaimer, I don't really know what banks do, so I'm just winging it, so bear with me. So it'll be a bank of business where I wear a suit, I give out loans, I do a lot of handshaking, you know, I take in a lot of money, I give out a lot of money. It's gonna be a very professional, very corporate environment. Which, based on the description I've just given you, which one of these logos do you think is more appropriate for my bank? Right? I think we all know which one we're picking. So the second criteria, what makes a good logo, distinctiveness. It should be unusual enough to persist in our minds, right? There should be something unique, something different, even something weird about it so that we would want to remember it. So this is a red circle. This red circle can be a lot of things. This red circle can be a drop of blood. This red circle can be a red ball. This entire picture can be the flag of Japan, right? But if I add another circle onto it, we all know what this is, right? And this sort of ties in perfectly to the third criteria, which is simplicity. It should be simple. It should be uncomplicated in form while still being distinctive. So these two images are sort of displaying the same animal. They're illustrating the same animal. But how they're doing it is very different. One is all about adding in as much detail as possible, and the other one is all about taking detail away and still have that image still be recognizable as that animal, right? And especially in today's modern day and age, one of the key benefits of doing this is that we consume a lot of our contents, a lot of our information through sort of these supercomputers called our phones, right? If you notice, our phones are kind of small. I know they're getting bigger and bigger, but they're still quite small. So when you have a very detailed mark that to represent your company, it's kind of hard to see when it's really small, right? And what you don't see, you don't really care to remember, as opposed to this. So I think now we are all equipped with sort of a formula that should give us a beautiful and objectively good logo every time you all graduated the logo design university. So I want to try to answer the second question, which is, why does it matter? Why do we need to care about good logos, right? Are there successful companies out there in the world that don't have so good logos? The answer is that yes, there are a lot. There's a lot of very successful companies out in the world that don't have the best logo, but they're still successful. So then the question is, can a good logo guarantee success? And I think the answer is quite philosophical, if you will. Nothing in life can guarantee you success, right? Nothing can really guarantee you like 100% success. A good logo can only limit the risk of failure. And what failure am I talking about? This failure is really based off of this one simple concept that we as human beings face every day. And that is change is inevitable. Change will always happen regardless if we want it to or not, right? And when I was younger, I used to watch a show called Power Rangers. Who here has seen Power Rangers? Morphing time, man. Cool, so when I was watching the show, the Green Ranger was my favorite Power Ranger. I like so one of my personal childhood heroes here. And everything I owned when I was growing up needed to be green. I wanted my mom to buy a green bike for me. I wanted my mom to buy green toys for me. I even tried to paint all of my toy guns green, because I'm a Power Ranger, deal with it. But as I got older, I sort of grew out of liking the color green. Every time I looked at green for too long, I kind of, felt sick. I feel like I needed to vomit. So it got to the point where I became indifferent with colors in general, as you can tell from my very colorful slides, right? I always go to black and white whenever I can. So as a person, as an individual, I changed. I evolved. My beliefs, my preferences evolved and changed over time. It's not so much different for companies like these guys, right? So these guys in particular started out as shoemakers. They were only making shoes. But now they're making a lot more than shoes. And could you imagine if they use a shoe to represent their company, which were making shoes, and now they're making pants, they're making shirts, and every time they made a new product, they would have to update and draw a little shirt in, draw a little pants in, draw a little underwear in as well. It wouldn't be smart, it wouldn't be efficient, it would just be a waste of time for everyone. So essentially, when designed well, a good logo becomes more than just a logo. It becomes a timeless container for evolving ideas, right? The beautiful thing about this sort of container is that you can put anything into it. You can put an idea, you can put a belief, you can put a mission, you can put a movement, and whatever you put in can evolve to whatever state it needs to later on as well, and you don't have to switch the container out, you don't have to do maintenance on it as well. And that's a beautiful thing. To sort of further emphasize on this point, I'd love to share a case study of a project that I got to work on. It's for a company called Barame. Who here have sort of heard of Barame? Good, right? So Barame is a music production label based here in Cambodia. It was founded by the amazing Laura Mom and her Miss Tida, her mom. So as you know, Laura herself is an artist, and she was actually one of the key players that sort of pushed this new trend of original Khmer music within our country, right? Because after the war, we lost a lot of very talented people. And by default, our sort of music industry sort of took a big hit. A lot of people started copying songs from around the world. It was like a very, very big deal. So in the 2010s, there was a trend started popping back up where artists were starting to write again their original songs. They started to produce original music again, which was a breath of fresh air. So for this project, so I had an opportunity to redesign the logo for Barame. Well, I should say that I kind of created the opportunity to redesign the logo for Barame because they hired me for something totally different, not this, So for me, this project in particular was more than just a work project, was more than just a project I wanted to get paid a lot of money for. It was a personal project because music has always been a very big part of my life since I was young, right? It gave me a way for me to express myself. It gave me a way for me to cry without actually crying. I'm sure we all been there. And what's even weirder about this story was that even before I became a graphic designer, I seriously thought I was going to be a full-time musician because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And the even weirder thing about that is that there was two main inspirations in my life that pushed me into wanting to learn music and by default learn guitar. And that was one of them was actually Laura herself when she released her first song. So for me, this was a really weird full circle story. I had an opportunity to make an impact in one of my childhood heroes' life, right? So about the redesign. So this is the previous Baromate logo. As you can see, you can instantly tell that this is a Cambodian music company, right? It's very much paying homage to sort of our traditional culture. And really, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to pay respect to your heritage. The problem in this case is that Baromate, as they grew as a brand, they learned that this logo was not doing a good job in representing who they were at that moment in time, right? This logo was actually not representing Baromate as Baromate. It was actually representing Baromate as a stereotype of what a Cambodian music company should look like. And that was a problem because they were very different. So we honed in on this concept. We wanted to redesign a new identity and a new logo that would sort of respect our culture, respect our tradition, respect our heritage, but at the same time, evolving it forward so that it would be more relevant. Because situations change, things evolve, right? Things that were relevant 10 years ago are not relevant today. So that was the concept, and oddly enough, this is what sort of the lines on the old logos were supposed to represent. Because in the logo animation, these lines would sort of animate forward into a spiral. Sort of like time travel, and then for Baromate, this represented the evolution of culture. So, evolution of culture, and more specifically, I should say, sort of the evolution of Khmer music culture, right? They wanted to evolve it forward so that it would be more relevant. So now we have sort of our premise, our concept. Now I have to ask a question of what does the evolution of a culture look like visually, right? When you think about it, culture is basically doing the same thing over and over again. So culture is a cycle, right? You don't change a thing. It's about being as consistent as you can. But we want to sort of in a way still respect culture, still respect heritage, but at the same time evolve it forward, right? So we just do this, graphic design, right? So that's the logo. We sort of did a Khmer and Latin word mark or English word mark for the company. I spent sort of the weekend preparing the entire presentation to present to the whole Baromate team and the artists as well. And sort of in my mind, I was expecting praise when I presented this logo. I was expecting, oh, Bud, you're so amazing, you're so handsome, man. Let me give you a hug. Here's a check for like $10,000. Here's a new car. But the response I got was actually sort of the opposite. A lot of people sort of thought it was too simple, which is understandable. It's a few lines. There was this one moment where someone just instantly stood up and shouted, "I like the old logo better." So when you sort of spend your time to work on something that's very personal to you, it's very easy to get angry when people respond negatively to your work. But one thing that I have to remember, and I have to remind myself every day, is that logos in particular are like people, right? We're used to certain people in our lives, and we're used to seeing certain logos in our life as well. So a logo is almost like a friend that you've known for so long. And of course, when you've known someone for so long, you're going to build a strong emotional attachment to that person, right? Or that thing. So in this case, for the Baromate team, a lot of the people there had a very strong emotional attachment to the old logo. And it's not their fault. I make it a point to stay open to criticism, especially negative criticism. Whether what I'm doing, whether my wife is telling me I cooked the rice wrong, whether I'm designing a logo, it's very important to be open to criticism that you don't agree with. And then some of the other responses were like just, meh. A lot of people are like, meh, what? It's a few lines in the circle. What do you want? You want us to pay you now? So eventually, of course, we started to use the logo. Eventually, time passed. And there was a shift at how people saw the company internally, right? Eventually, people started to sort of wear it with a badge of pride. It was everywhere suddenly. It became their logo now, right? It's not something different. And the reason I think this logo works so well for them isn't because it was like, it's amazingly designed by a very handsome graphic designer. I'm married, I'm sorry. So yeah, that's not the reason. It's not because the logo is amazingly designed or anything. It's because this logo in particular gave them a point of focus. It gave them a fresh start almost, right? Suddenly, they didn't have to be tied down to any preconceived notions, any stereotype of what they should be anymore. Suddenly, they can express themselves as authentically as possible. And I like to end on a quote from Laura after the redesign. I'm going to try to read it for everyone here. So at first, I was really skeptical about why we needed a redesign. I thought what we had was good already. But eventually, I gave in through Buz's persistent push for the redesign. My skepticism was certainly an emotional attachment to the old logo. However, throughout the design process and upon arriving to the new logo, I felt that there was a shift in how we saw Barmaid. Our spirit was captured from the old logo and given more freedom to expand with the new logo. I think the mark really captured what Barmaid represents and successfully evolved our mission. Most importantly, it gave us new energy. And spoiler alert, the year we had following the rebranding was very successful because of that energy. And I think that is the real and the true significance of a good logo. Thank you.